as well. And if this is your first time, please drop in the comments where you're watching me from. Please drop in the comments where you're watching me from. Good job. Okay. And again, I'll do the top 5 reasons why your private clients will complain about your caregivers. Okay, so thanks again for joining, and let's get started. So because I want, where are my manners? Hey everybody, this is Sean, aka the Savvy Business Chick, making sure that you know your purpose and destiny in the marketplace. And in 2006, I started a home care business, a home health care, meaning it was a medical or skilled home care agency from the ground up, and grew it to a 7-figure home care business with the help of my mentor. I am a faith-based business mentor, and I am the original home care business mentor out in these streets. And one of the things that I want to provide to you guys today is information on how you can start and grow and scale your home care business. And I was just thinking about this topic, and I wanted to know if you guys knew how to handle some of these things that come about. So that's, if you have a complaint, okay, so let's just go start with the complaints. This is from my notes. I even have my teeth was on one part of my paper, so please forgive me. But this came straight from what I wanted to share with you guys today. And to make sure that there's not a long delay, can you please do me a favor and put the number 1 in the comment, because I want to see how much of the delay we have from the chat. So put the number 1 if you're ready for me to start sharing. The number 1. I'm trying to check the delay. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so thank you so much. Okay, so the number 1 reason why, well, this is kind of out of order, but this is kind of technically the number 1 reason why your private clients, I'm going to focus a little bit more on private clients, but it can come from your insurance clients, your Medicaid clients, your Medicare clients. They will complain about your caregivers, such as your direct support workers, your CNAs, your home health aides, your certified nursing assistants, and even your nurses if they are habitually late. If they are not tardy, if they are not on time, they're going to complain that this caregiver is late. And this is a big deal, right? This kind of complaint can lead to someone leaving your agency. I had a couple of clients that, because we serve the VA, veterans, and they're sticklers of time. So we picked that up during the initial assessment, okay, this is important to them. And you can pick things up during the initial assessment, and you should put that in your patient profile or your patient notes that, make sure you tell your supervisor or your scheduling coordinator to make sure that the caregiver is on time for work. And on time, we know, is not, if the shift starts at 8 a.m., on time will be that they're there at 7:55, right? Because we know they got to get themselves together, get from their car and everything. So my question to you is, do you have a set schedule? Sometimes people allow the caregiver to work their schedule out with the client, and that's a big no-no. You need to have a set schedule in place for your system, for tracking, Don't just let the caregiver just log into your home care software or log into the EVV system, or even just figure it out or work it out with the client, because that's not really good oversight on your part. You really should be supervising or overseeing the care. So don't just leave it to, oh yeah, they'll work it out. Now, if they're making up time and the caregiver says, okay, I'll work it out with Miss Smith, how she wants me to make up the hours I missed when I was XYZ, then that's fine. But overall, there should be a schedule, and the schedule should either be every 2 weeks or monthly. I prefer monthly. So make sure that there's a set schedule in place and that your caregivers and clients aren't working them out amongst themselves, because that really leaves you as the agency out of the loop. And then when you get this complaint, you're like, oh, well, I didn't even know. And that's honestly not a good response to be that hands off when you are the provider, right? You are the employer. So also, do you have a scheduling policy? Do you have a time and attendance policy? So if you have a time and attendance policy, it will be really beneficial for you to go over that during your orientation. And if you have a repeat offender, meaning a caregiver that's starting to show signs of developing a bad habit of being on time, then you want to have your supervisor go over that with him or her to say, hey, during orientation, you signed here that if you were running late, you were going to give the office a call. If it was after hours, you'll speak to our answering service or blah, blah, blah. And, because you need a way to document and track the call. And also, it should really be in that policy that you only get paid for what you worked, because there are some wonderful caregivers out there that will put their time of their shift and the client will just sign off for it. But that's when you really get into a bad client complaint, because the client, will be, maybe feel a certain kind of way because, they want the caregiver to get paid. Like, okay, when he or she is there, they're doing what they're supposed to do, but they really are growing really weary, really tired of them showing up late. So one of the things I also used to say during the initial assessment or the client onboarding process is, if you have this kind of problem, let the agency be the bad guy. You let us resolve it so that you can maintain that good rapport of the caregiver in your home. So I mentioned that also, put some fire to your supervisor, that he or she needs to be making sure that there wasn't any obsessive lateness. Every month, he or she, your supervisor, needs to be checking that regularly. So that's the job of your supervisor. And that is a really big item that you don't want to complain on, because like I said, it can lead to the client possibly leaving the agency, going somewhere else where they feel like they're getting a caregiver that cares about what time they're going to show up to work. Sorry, I take a sip. Number two reason why you would get a complaint from a client, whether that's private client, Medicaid client, insurance client, is that they don't really feel confident that the caregiver knows what he or she is doing. And that could be anything from bathing. That could be, oh, you know what? Every time this particular caregiver comes, we are really nervous when she's transferring, our mom from the wheelchair to the bed. And you really need to pay attention to these types of complaints, this or in so many ways feedback, because again, this is a telltale sign of what the agency is doing or not doing. Were these things addressed during orientation? Do you have any kind of training or retraining that you're going to do on body mechanics, just in case that was a complaint? Okay, we don't feel like she's properly trained or he's properly trained for transferring them from the bed to the wheelchair, or the wheelchair to the bed bath, or the shower chair. Those type of things are really important, because they can also cause like a slip and fall. They can also cause other issues, and you don't want these small complaints to lead to a big complaint. And if you're in a regulated state, if you have a complaint that is unaddressed by the agency, and the client or the client's representative is really frustrated with you, they can go to the state. There's usually like a state hotline for complaints. And if they do that, guess what? Knock, knock, knock. You have the state knocking at your door. And if they're knocking at your door, guys, then they can open up a whole can of worms and they can start just really looking into not only that client, but they can say, okay, let me see 4 of your other clients. And you really don't want that kind of heat. So, it's best that you be proactive in addressing complaints versus reactive. So that's the number 2 complaint, improper training. They don't feel like the caregiver knows what they are doing. Also, you want to make sure that your supervisors or your scheduling coordinators are properly matching your caregiver to your client's needs. So if the caregiver doesn't have a lot of experience with dealing with dementia patients, and that person, is on the acute status of Alzheimer's or dementia, then you don't want that kind of complaint from the family, because then either A, like I said, it could escalate and can go to the state, or it can take another turn and make the family just say deuces. So again, this is another area where you need to really have a good, strong supervisor who is going to do a good job with the orientation process, as well as he or she's going to do a good job with monitoring. And that's the supervisory visit. You should have questions on that supervisory visit that would reassure, or that would, have a comment that, yes, I feel comfortable in my caregiver skills. Okay. Number 3, and this is technically not in order, but it's kind of in order, because number 3 is poor communication. Poor communication is a regular complaint with most clients. Like I said, whether you're a private client, Medicaid client, insurance client, Medicare client, poor communication with their caregivers, even poor communication with the agency is a complaint that you may hear. And you want to make sure that you are encouraging your caregivers to listen and talk. Okay, so we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So in a sense, we need to listen twice as much as we're talking. And if you have a senior citizen that doesn't feel respected, or they don't feel like their voice is being heard, and it could be something as, no, I don't want you to do that. And there's a communication breakdown, and they keep doing whatever they want to do. And it's really not something that would be a danger to them. Maybe they don't like the way they make coffee, or it could be something very, very mild, but the caregiver's like, it's just me and you, so I'm gonna do whatever I want to do today, Ms. Smith. Okay. So you have to, again, have a good supervisor in place and make sure that your caregivers are listening, and make sure that your agency responds quickly if they get a call or email or text message about, well, I'm having a communication breakdown with my caregiver. Because what I've seen in the past is that if that happens, then, the client is going to ask for a new person. There could be communication breakdown because maybe English is not their first language. So it could be like a language barrier as well as a cultural barrier that could cause communication breakdowns with a client and the caregiver or aide. So, and they become very frustrated speaking to their caregivers, and then they will ultimately talk to you about it. And if they don't feel like the matter has been addressed, then again, a lot of complaints end in the peace sign. So that is something you want to address. Number 4 is complaint that I have a lot of funny stories about, but a caregiver or a nurse spending too much time on his or her phone. So that could be a complaint that comes up during a monthly or quarterly supervisory visit, or annually on your client satisfaction survey. So-and-so is always on their phone. I had a nurse that was so creative. She had her earpods in her ear. Luckily, we had a policy that said, you cannot be on your phone, whether it's Bluetooth or AirPods, any kind of wireless device, while you are performing treatments to your patients or giving medications. So again, having a policy in place is a good protection for you, because they signed that, whether they were paying attention to it or not. They signed that when they went through orientation. And basically, you just want to reiterate that. This is something your policies can empower your supervisors who may not know exactly how to go about presenting the disciplinary action to the caregiver or to the nurse. Basically, they can fall back on the policy that they signed. We said here, you can't do this. It was reported to us by the client that you are doing this, and you did this on several occasions. So you can choose to suspend them or give them a warning. So my biggest addressing this is really essential, because if the caregiver is spending a lot of time on their phone and the client has noticed it, they've noticed it so much that they have told the agency about it, then that means at some point they're feeling extremely neglected. Maybe they were calling the caregiver and they found out that he or she was on their phone. Now, granted, if they're at work for long periods of time, they're going to need to be able to have maybe like their children or their husband or someone reach them. But really, we should really make sure that they're not on their phone while they're at work, because guess what? If they were at the hospital, they can't even bring their phone on the floor. If they were at a nursing home, they wouldn't be able to bring their phone on the floor. If they were, at a facility. So they get to be a little bit lax in home care. And we don't want to be, so strict, that it makes it uncomfortable when there could genuinely be an emergency and somebody needs to reach them. But we don't want people that are going to abuse the environment of home care. As a relaxed environment. And again, if the client is complaining, at that point, they feel neglected. They feel like the caregiver is too distracted to hear their calls for help. And it could be genuinely a call for help that they can't hear because they got something in their ear. How about that? Number 5, and this is my last one. Client, and it's not directly to the client, the caregiver, or the nurse, but it has to do with them and they're working. Guess what? Clients do not like being charged time and a half for holidays. And we're coming into the holiday season. And I said, let me put this one on here because I had two other ones that I wanted to share. I had that clients don't like inconsistent quality of care. Like I said, here's my notes. Clients don't like, when they hear that, their caregiver hasn't gotten paid for whatever reason. They don't like rude supervisors. They don't like rude people when they contact the agency. They don't like being treated as a number. They don't like a lot of things, and it's important that we listen to it. But most importantly, they do not like being charged time and a half. And I know you're like, okay, well, what are we supposed to do around the holidays? If for like Medicaid, if you were servicing a Medicaid client, did you know that they will not reimburse you time and a half? So why are you charging a private client time and a half for the caregiver to work on the holidays? You need to come up with a fixed rate, a fixed price that you're going to quote to the client and then reimburse the caregiver around the holidays. And I did a post a few weeks ago, less than a month ago, on how to address things over the holidays. So you should go back and listen to that, right? So being charged time and a half is a bit much for a private client. And we have to have a happy medium where we can incentivize the caregiver for going to work on a holiday where he or she would rather be with their family, and also make sure that the company is getting some profit from that holiday rate. But there is a happy medium, and we should always give the client an option. One of the things that I recommend, and I'm going to be doing in my training tonight, I have a training on fall marketing, is that you really need to give your existing clients, at least a 2-week notice, right? Tell them in advance, hey, on Thanksgiving and Christmas, we charge this rate for holidays. You may not even remember that because, you only looked at the rate sheet 6 months ago when you signed your service agreement, and you've been a great client. So we want to give you the option of having someone on that day. Do you need someone? Yes. Okay. Well, maybe they would elect to only have somebody for 4 hours versus having them for 12 hours. And then it saves them some money because they are going to get charged a holiday rate, just not time and a half, right? So you want to give them the option. And also, it really helps your schedulers, because if your private client says, no, I don't need someone, then they don't have to spin their wheels finding someone to work all the cases when you only have to staff 60%, or maybe it's 80% of the cases. And then you work with your caregivers, you work with your nurses, and you find out, the ones that want to work, make some extra money, and the ones that don't. So these are my 5 top reasons why clients will complain about your caregivers. And what I hope you gleaned from this is that you need to have policies in place. You need to have good supervisors who are going to do their job and represent the agency and be that happy medium between the client and the caregiver, or the client and the nurse, and make sure that they are enforcing the policies of the agency, but still providing quality service, customer service to your clients, so they don't just feel pushed off by your responses. So we said policies in place, good supervisors, And, we also need to be proactive when things happen. We need to have an action plan for if any of these type of complaints will occur. So hopefully you benefited from this live training today. And if you have any questions, please, you feel free to DM me or put your questions in the comments. Tonight we have a free training, but it's going to be on Zoom, and we're going to be going over your fall marketing. And we're going to be initially the first 5-10 minutes, we're going to do like a town hall meeting, talking with home care CEOs all over. And we're going to be talking about what's working and what's not working, but we're going to really be honing over the seasonal, the essence of seasonal marketing for your home care business. And in that seasonal marketing, we're going to really shape our home care agencies and get them ready for the holiday season. So if you're interested in that free training, it is on Zoom. It won't be here on Instagram, it won't be on YouTube. Then please DM me and let me know if you want to join that. And if you let me know by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will send you the link for free. Okay. And as always, if you're in my home care CEO mentorship program, you get the replay for free. If you decide, hey, how are you, that you want to purchase the replay, then just let me know also in the comments or via DM if you don't think you're going to make it tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Do I have any questions, comments about the information I shared before I drop off? Any comments, any questions? Thank you, Sip. Going once, any comments and questions about the top complaints that clients will make about your caregivers? Going twice. Oh, you're welcome. Good to see you. Peace out, guys.